Hey everyone, this is Greg Szczerwowski with the Deepest Dream YouTube channel. For more movie and TV reviews and interviews, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again for listening, and thanks again for your support. Painkiller, limited series from Netflix, 6 episodes, directed by Peter Berg. Love his work, Mile 22, thinking off the top of my head, The Kingdom, Hancock, Friday Night Lights. Like him as a director, his style is all over the place. Not all over the place as a director, but his style is really infused within Painkiller. So my guess is if you've liked the films I've mentioned, Lone Survivor, of course, of Peter Berg's, there's a good chance you might like this limited series as well. So I actually biasedly got a lot out of Painkiller because I needed to be educated a lot more regarding the opioid crisis, how OxyContin went to market, and how it proliferated into basically, and how it affected in a highly negative fashion the U.S. and people taking painkillers, right? So I was really educated within this limited series. Now, this is not a documentary. It's based on real events, and it's a mixture of a fictional narrative as well. From my POV, this mixture blended pretty well. My only warning regarding Painkiller is it's not very subtle. It's not nuanced. The final moments, I'm not going to give the spoiler what happens at the end, but the final moments of episode 6 is very interesting, and it's very hits you over the head. And it's one of these moments where some people will absolutely love it. Some people will say, oh gosh, this was too much for me. So if you don't mind being hit over the head with a lack of subtlety and nuance, and I don't mean that in a very negative fashion, because this is the opioid crisis, this is OxyContin. Sometimes you need a little bit, you need a megaphone. It's a no holds barred look at the OxyContin opioid crisis that has affected America. Okay, vis-a-vis co-creators Mika Fitzgerman-Blue and Noah Harpster, and again directed by Peter Berg. I haven't seen Dopesick, and I haven't seen the documentary All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, so I can't compare Painkiller to those two projects. That said, those two projects are the ones I really want to see next when I have free time, and that's credit due to the effectiveness of Painkiller. So it worked for me. I was on board with the tone. You might not like its sort of, I don't even know, overreaching. It's just, again, it's very in your face, and you might not like the broad strokes sometimes that it paints. And I was fine with that. I was totally fine. I liked a bunch of the stories more than the others, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of it in a second. Now, Painkiller, it's interwoven stories, several different stories. First, there's the investigator played by Uzo Aduba, and it starts off with her being questioned by, I guess maybe it was government officials or something. They're questioning her about Purdue Pharma. And ultimately, that device in the opening episode leads to a complete flashback regarding Uzo Aduba's, again, she plays the character Edie Flowers, investigator / lawyer, prosecutor Edie Flowers, and you get to see her journey in trying to take down Richard Sackler and the Sackler family for their involvement, their spread of OxyContin via Purdue Pharma. Okay, so I was learning all of this about Purdue Pharma, Googled it while I was watching it, reading up on Purdue Pharma, just very obsessed and very locked into just the judgments and whatnot, and possibly why you're watching Painkiller well, I'm sure a lot of you are more knowledgeable than me regarding Purdue Pharma, but if you're not, you might find yourself actually on your iPad or computer while you're watching Painkiller, reading up about the Sackler family. Now, speaking of the Sackler family, Richard Sackler, get a lot of Matthew Broderick in this limited series. Richard Sackler is the patriarch, the mastermind, the head of the snake for Purdue Pharma, and he's very good in this movie. Not in this movie. He's very good in this limited series. Matthew Broderick, I haven't seen him this good in a while. Maybe I should watch more of Matthew Broderick's latest work. I know a lot of his stuff from the 80s and 90s. I haven't seen a lot of his stuff recently, but he's very good as Richard Sackler. You just can't, he's a kind of guy, at least in this limited series, you can't really get a handle on. He has his own wheels turning in his head, and part of those wheels that are turning is inspired by his late uncle, Arthur Sackler Sr., played by Clark Gregg. And even though Arthur Sackler Sr. has passed away at the time of this limited series, at the time of Painkiller, Clark Gregg, as Arthur Sackler Sr., he has a very big role within the limited series, and he has a very profound influence on Richard Sackler, again, played by Matthew Broderick. So you have the Sackler storyline Okay, and that's sort of a one storyline because it's kind of like the Sackler versus Edie Flowers storyline, and I found that to be interesting. The second layer is the Taylor Kitsch, who's worked with Peter Berg before, I believe in Friday Night Lights and Battleship. I'm sure they've worked together on other stuff. I just can't think of what else they've worked together, but it's really interesting to see Taylor Kitsch come from years ago from Friday Night Lights to see him now play a family man mechanic who, due to a accident on the job, he now has to take OxyContin, and you get to see what happens, how OxyContin specifically affects his family, how it affects Kitsch's character, his wife, his daughter, and his stepson. So that's the family element behind Painkiller. Also, before each episode, you see a first-person account from a person who reflects on a loved one who has passed from OxyContin. So each episode starts off with a very quick story and reflection from a real-life person. Again, Painkiller is a mixture of real events with a fictional narrative. So for me, it was a good blend because even though there's a ton of fiction in this limited series, there's also a ton of fact, and you can actually parse out. By the time you're done Painkiller, you can actually do your own reading, which I'm going to do, and see what's false and fiction or true or false and whatnot. But the bottom line is, for me, the biggest value add behind Painkiller is learning about OxyContin, Purdue Pharma, the Sackler family, and just the personal elements, the personal loss behind OxyContin. Because someone like me who is pretty naive about reading the opioid crisis, it was a very important limited series for me to watch. Now it'll be interesting to see what you guys think if you've seen All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, that documentary, or Dope Sick as well. Maybe you might have a different reaction regarding Painkiller. Also want to mention Wes Duchovny. She is the daughter of Taya Leone and David Duchovny. She plays a pharma sales rep named Shannon Schaefer, and she's another big storyline in Painkiller. You get to see how Shannon starts off as sort of a wide-eyed pharma sales rep. She just wants to make money, and it's about how she learns brick by brick, just learns the tricks of the trade, how to actually curry favor and engender relationships, friendships with doctors, because they are the middlemen as far as making sure your OxyContin gets to their, not shelves, because gets prescribed via their offices. So that's a very intricate relationship. And you also see how pharma sales reps, at least via this limited series, have been recruited. So it's a very intricate look behind the pharma sales rep via the POV of the character Shannon Schaefer. Really loved Wes Duchovny in it, and she was the big surprise for me regarding Painkiller. I was very locked into her story. Also, Uzo Aduba as Edie Flowers, the prosecutor investigator behind this whole thing. I think in my opinion, that she's a very big part of Painkiller. Her character works more as a way for us to see the big picture behind OxyContin and Purdue Pharma. So a lot of times she serves as the flashback mouthpiece. And when they try to actually paint personal layers or try to add a little bit of extra dimension to her character regarding her relationship with her brother or her video game moments at home, it fell flat to me, just for me. I don't think they needed all those extra shadings to her character, because she's ultimately sort of the cipher in the narrative, the person who sort of introduces us to all of the other elements behind Painkiller. I don't know, maybe you guys might feel differently regarding the Edie Flowers character, but Uzo Aduba, great in the role. I just thought that some of those extra scenes were not necessary. That said, they don't take up a lot of time, but that's just a minor nitpick. So overall, Painkiller worked for me. It will not work for some people who don't want to be hit over the head with just this kind of message. And sometimes, again, you do need that megaphone. You do need in-your-face storytelling. And I think this is what Painkiller offers you. And again, please, on the comments, tell me how good or not, how you felt about Dope Sick or All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, and how Painkiller actually compares to the aforementioned projects, okay? Because I can't wait to get to those two, and I'm so thankful that I was able to see Painkiller. Leave a comment below. What did you think of Painkiller? I thought it really worked. So overall, this is a solid drama for me. There's a couple of things that I felt maybe were a little bit drawn out. A couple of the character moments felt a little bit, you know what? It felt a little bit predictable ultimately, but this is OxyContin. You know where a lot of these storylines are going to go. So I'm not going to really fault the creators, the writers, Mika Fitzerman Blue and Noah Harpster for that. So it's, again, really well done limited series. I would give this out of 5 stars. I would give this 4 out of 5 stars. Let me know what you think of Painkiller. Check it out now on Netflix. Thanks again so much, guys, for your time.